This is the Soul's Journey podcast with Kat and Mel, where we bring you the latest energy updates, spiritual guidance and support for your spiritual awakening journey.
So I suppose that was the start of my journey.
And then and how did you process that? Tell me, because it's like, because you haven't before then, you haven't heard, I'm guessing, from what I understand, about channeling or mediums or anything.
I'd heard of psychics before in the past, right, but it wasn't something that I was like around or anything. So the ability then to learn to understand that there's more going on here than meets the eye, and looking back over my journey going, hang on a minute, there's this guy who knows nobody, has no resources, no network, leading from the heart, just has passion, and yet he's got some of the world's biggest names who have just said yes to him, shared their vulnerability with him, a total stranger, on camera. All these publications from like GQ, People Magazine, Australia, the top mainstream media, getting behind me in a year. I'm like, this is crazy.
All right, so welcome everyone to our next episode of Soul's Journey. Today I have Glenn Marsden as our guest, and Glenn is on a mission that has led him to build an international movement. It's called Perfectly Imperfect. He has gained the support of over 500 of the world's biggest names across all industries to help shift the narrative around mental health. And Glenn, in your journey, you say that you've had world-renowned channelers and shamans who told you that your work was divinely led and that you need to learn how to tap in. So it's all very fascinating to me. I mean, us having a spiritual podcast, it's definitely all we're about. So I'm really looking forward to find out more about it. So yeah, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And tell us, where in the world are you right now?
So the accent's a little bit all over. I'm originally from the UK, back in Manchester, but I do live in Sydney, Australia, in this glorious country.
Nice, very sunny. We're very jealous.
It's a beautiful country.
Yes, yeah, awesome. Right. So, Glenn, I would love to hear about your story. So the campaign, is it a campaign called Perfectly Imperfect? If you can just tell us maybe a little bit about what it is first, and then, yeah, the floor is yours to let us know how did you get there, really.
Yes, certainly. So it's called Imperfectly Perfect Campaign. So some people call it Perfectly Imperfect, but it is called the Imperfectly Perfect Campaign. It has been around for 7 years now. It is something that got placed on my heart because I sadly lost a friend to suicide. I had my challenges with mental illness around probably 10 years ago with body dysmorphia, being in the fitness industry. And essentially that's how it came about, with me seeing a lot of discrepancies with what I was seeing in the world with mental health, a lot of awareness campaigns and charities taking a lot of donations, and seeing, again, the disparity between people seeking help and not much out there, and the things that were out there that was catching my eye were kind of disengaging, to say the least. In Australia, there was a huge national campaign with a little old lady with a bunch of flowers. And as we are as people these days, time poor, we're consumed by social media, to see a picture of an old lady with flowers, I didn't question it until I looked into it and then realized how much money must have been spent on a national campaign, and how many of our young children would have looked at that and not even thought about suicide or mental illness. So the conversations would not have been started. However, at the time, because I'd lost a friend and I'd experienced it, there was frustration. And for all I know, that campaign could have done its job. But again, with that frustration, with that passion and drive, I rolled my sleeves up and said, look, I'm going to do something. So for anyone watching this, you can see the images behind me. I did photography as a passion. I started reaching out to a lot of the celebrities in Australia, throughout every industry, asking if I could take away the lights, the microphones, hair and makeup, and just get them to a place where they experience themselves a time in their life that they struggle with their mental health. So in its entirety, it is an awareness campaign. It is a movement where communities can join together. There's resources, there's the magazine, there's the podcast. And essentially it's it's not a non-profit. It's nothing to do with us asking for donations or anything. It's a philanthropic endeavor of mine because I experienced it and I wanted to make a difference. So that's where it's there for. A lot of free resources, and off the back of it, a very spiritual journey, which we will talk about. But I never understood it at the time, but now it's very clear.
Right. Well, very interesting. I mean, yes, the topic of mental health is definitely still ripe and, very, very, let's call it popular in the sense that it's, we all talk about it. But like you say, it's not always given its justice in a sense of showing the real reality, the real stories of how it really looks like and how it impacts people. And sometimes it's hard to reach the wider population. I guess, like you say, mostly maybe it's done through charities and such, and not everyone looks there, right? So yeah, very, very important work, and all of the things that you mentioned are very dear to my heart. So mental health, body dysmorphia topic, although I haven't technically met anyone who would say that they have body dysmorphia, but working in fitness in the past, I know that it's a thing. So yeah. Now, so tell us, please, how did you, what happened between or until that time when you just thought, okay, that's it, it's my time now to get this mission, let's say, going, and I want to do something in the world, because I'm sure it's been quite a journey. So
Mm.
yeah, let us know how that started.
Yeah, it was a sense of just having this drive in me, this determination through frustration, as I said, seeing what was out there and just utilizing photography to bring it about. And through that, I had no resources, I had no network, I had no, should I say, skill set in terms of getting a mission out there in marketing, in PR. But you know what? I put one foot in front of the other. And as I started taking pictures, I started connecting with people through relationships and building them. And then within 3 months, it hit the headlines within Australia, all the publications. Then within 6 months, Channel 10, Channel 9, SBS, Sky News. And then by 12 months to the USA. And that's a sense of where people started coming towards me, telling me that everything was being led. Now, when people say that to somebody who wasn't brought up around faith, wasn't brought up around spirituality, of course you're going to go, what are you talking about? It's been led. So it's been a journey, to say the least. It hasn't been easy, as you can imagine, starting something without the resources or network. But anyone that's listening, if you've got something that placed on your heart, I will say it feels like you stood at the bottom of a mountain thinking, how the hell am I going to get to the top of that when I don't know anyone? I haven't got the resources. Tell you something, do the internal work, believe in yourself, know that you're enough, and build relationships, and you'll do it.
Okay. So I gotta say, Glenn, you make it sound very easy, believe in yourself and believe in your work, and then yeah, everything will, fall into place. But it's got all good to say that, but it's more difficult to actually do. So if you can in any way maybe go into a little bit more detail of how, because that jump from, so, well, yeah, first of all, if you can tell us what you did before, because I know you've incorporated your photography in your work now, but what kind of work were you doing before? Was it also photography? Did you do something else? Like how the actual transition looked like? And yeah, just can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, so my struggles with mental health pertain to body dysmorphia. That came from being in the fitness industry. So I was in the fitness industry for over 20 years, through the UK, through Europe, through Australia, New Zealand. And when I turned 30, that's when my, should I say, struggles with what I was pertaining to be, or looking at everyone in Sydney, Australia on the beach, thinking I wasn't enough and comparing myself. And I suppose attributing to social media these days, it's only getting worse. People are looking left, right, instead of looking forward. So when I said there was no experience, the only thing I can say when people say, oh, you make it sound easy, is that the truth is, and the reality is, you need to put one foot in front of the other. You are never going to have all the resources, all the network, all of this. All you can do is start with what you have. So I use social media for its intended purpose. I reached out to celebrities, which sounds absolutely ridiculous now, going, you just reached out to a celebrity and they answered you? Well, the truth
So
is
what did you
yes.
say? What did you say to them? Your
I
first
didn't.
celebrity. So you're here, you're on the mission, you've got enough, you're frustrated, and then you think, okay, I'm just gonna write to this and this person. How did that go?
Yeah, well, I put my personality into it. I put my heart into it. And one thing that people know me for when they do get to know me is that I'm a voice note guy. I don't send a
Wow.
text message or anything. I will literally just send a voice note. And I will use that. Hey, mate, because now I've lived in Australia for 17 years. It's a term of endearment. And I'll be like, hey, mate, I just absolutely love what you stand for. I love that you're an advocate towards mental health awareness. I'm Glenn Marsden. I'm the founder of the Imperfectly Perfect Campaign. Over the last X amount of years, when I reach out to them, this is what I've done. This is what I've achieved. These are the people that are attached to it. I'd love to know if it's something that you're interested in. And then 9 out of 10 times, I'll get a voice note from a celebrity and I'm like, oh my God, that's so-and-so that I grew up watching on TV and they sent me a voice note. So that's pretty cool. And now I've built relationships with a lot of them and known so many of them for like, 7 years now, 8 years.
Okay. So you just send a voice note. No, I'm kidding.
Exactly.
And then you see what
The
happens.
thing when people say, oh, you make it sound easy. It's not that hard to send a voice note or it's not that hard to send a message, but so many people, they overcomplicate it because they think, who's going to get back to me? Oh, I'm nobody. And I used to think that, but I think at the time when you've got nothing to lose, you do it anyway. Whether they had got back to me or not, it was irrelevant to me at the time. I was just gung-ho and I was just reaching out to so many.
Just doing whatever you feel you want to do without expectation of any sort and just see what happens because you've got nothing to lose, right?
Well, this is the thing. When it came to what we'll get into, the spiritual journey, there was no expectation.
Yeah.
It was just a passion. It was being led by the heart.
That's
And
it.
one foot in front of the other without expectation. You literally, if we're talking about vibrational frequencies and actually attracting people, you're going to attract it to you quite naturally. And I didn't understand what I was doing. I didn't know how I was attracting all these big names and everything until a lot more spiritual people came to me and taught me to tap in. But until then, anyone who's listening to this, maybe on that start of that journey going, oh, am I waking up? What's happening to me? It happens so differently and at different times. So even with that, do not expect it. Stop going into things with expectations and just let it naturally evolve.
Yes. And I think the very important ingredient in all of this is having that passion and just even if you don't know what you're doing, it kind of reminds me, I don't know if you watch or listen to any channelers, but for those who are familiar with Bashar,
Yes.
So he talks about one of the rules, or they're not called rules, it's called something else. I can't recall right now. But one of the first points I think are, do what you're passionate about. The other point being don't expect anything or how it comes about and how it will flourish or not, what will happen. And then some other point that I also can't remember, but those two are definitely the first two ingredients of the recipe of creating the life that your soul was here put on earth to do. I believe that's my belief. When we have the passion and the drive, especially, and I think especially when we don't know what to do with it, or where is it leading us? What does it really mean? But we just feel this fire burning, and we just have to do, and then we start doing, and we get prompts and ideas and inspiration, and we just keep going without expectation because we don't really know what the end result is, even, to be honest. It's
Exactly.
okay. Yeah.
I think when it comes to Bashar Daralanka, I came into kind of knowing who he was in the last year, but listening to him, and like you said, with the rules, there's the follow the passion, see where it leads you, don't go with expectation. And when that passion has dwindled, another idea will probably pop into your head. And if you've got passion, follow it to the most ability that you actually have. Because as soon as you lose passion, it's going to stop. But I think that there lies in the problem when it comes to people have those creative ideas, those flashes of inspiration in the shower or anywhere. They don't act upon it because they just think, oh, what was that? Oh, that would be good, but that's probably for someone else. Somebody else can do it. Whereas Glenn he'll get this creative idea and he'll go, right, let's do it, see where it goes. And that's what photography to then a campaign. Oh, let's go global. Oh, now it's global. Oh, let's just learn PR and marketing. Okay, the next minute, let's bring a book out. Let's do an event in Hollywood, and I've never done one before. Oh, look, Glenn's just done it. And I'm not special, and I'm not tooting my horn, but it's exactly what Darryl Anka says. Listen to those little intricate serendipitous moments and these guide things that just pop up in front of you all the time, and you take heed. You don't need to know the answer, just leave that to the rest of them. Because the only thing it's going to do is that you're going to go into this whole control motion in your head, stress out about it, expectation creeps in, and when things don't happen, it's not going to evolve, and then you're just going to pull yourself down and go in this perpetual cycle of, again, mental struggles. I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. I can't do this. Everyone else can. Why can't I? You put too much control and emotions on it in terms of expectations.
Yes. Have fun with it. Treat it as fun if you can. Nobody's telling anyone to now suddenly, quit their jobs or whatever and just go and, it's not about that, but it's about following the feeling.
Yep.
Even if you have however long during the day to spend on it, just spend that time, even if it's just 5 minutes, even if it's just to write down some ideas, and then act on them when you can. So yeah, I agree, and it's very true. And I think now more than ever, people are, I think, starting to maybe realize that that's really the case. But let's get into now that spiritual journey that I would love to cover with you. So you started reaching out to celebrities, and you're on a mission, and then you say that people started contacting you, or just out of nowhere. How did that look?
Yeah, so how that one first happened was essentially I'd get a few messages because the popularity of it was gaining with all the publicity around, and then I was getting messages, and there was shaman, and then there was like gurus and everything, but all I'd heard was like social media. There's a lot of self-proclaimed gurus out there telling people this, that, and I'm like, whatever. Like, I wasn't grown up around it until one of my good friends, who happens to be in Baywatch, the old show, Jeremy Jackson, growing up watching it, he went on this podcast. Now, he reached out to me and he said there was him, there was Eden Sassoon, who was on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Justin Guarini, who was on the first ever American Idol with Kelly Clarkson, and they were all in this room with two trans channelers, two mediums, and they started talking about the Imperfectly Perfect campaign, and all of a sudden there was a purple light and the energy changes in the room, he said. And the next minute, Eden Sassoon turned around and said, I've got a tattoo with the word perfectly imperfect on them. Oh, but I was going to get imperfectly perfect. The next minute, Justin was like, that's something that I said to my kids the whole time. And the trans channelers happened to turn around and say that there's something special about this campaign. We need to touch base and find out. So Jeremy let me know. I touched base with the channelers. We did a channeling session. Now, what they came out with just blew my mind. It was a sense of, with a trans channeling, they were connecting to my guides, and they were connecting to people that were coming through for me. This was totally new to me, but my friend who I made the campaign about came through. And then on top of that, this will blow your mind. She was like, do you know Chester Bennington? And I was like, yeah, Lincoln Park, like died of suicide. Right, he's come through. And I'm like, yeah, of course he has. Like, no, Glenn from Yorkshire, what the bloody hell's Chester Bennington's through? Yeah. And they came out with a couple more, but it was like, he knew that you wouldn't believe, so he's going to prove it to you. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Right. So lo and behold, I was going through, but they gave me a couple more messages through, and a friend had come through, and I needed to learn to start tapping in. And that was going to be tested on this journey. And there was a couple of things that were going to come up, and this is how I was going to get through them and be guided. So I suppose because I wasn't brought up around it, I was open. I was like, okay, whatever it is, whatever it will be. The following year, I happened to go to Los Angeles. Out of the blue, this text message popped up. And it was a friend who said, hey, open Instagram and have a look at this post, right? And the post was from this lady called Letitia Fry. And I read it, and it was brutal. It was just about mental health and how she'd nearly taken her life several years ago. And something in me just said, reach out to her. So I did. And then she said, I'm going to come and do this campaign. She flew from Arizona to Los Angeles the day after, spent the day with me, and the end of it, she said, can I just say something to you? I want to connect you with one of my good friends. And I'm like, oh, okay. She was like, she might not get back to you straight away because she's very well known, like huge celebrity, and her husband was a huge celebrity. She was like, she's called Talinda Bennington. And I was like, she's not married to Chester Bennington, is she? She was like, yeah. I was like, no. And she gave me Talinda Bennington's phone number and we connect, and it just blew my mind. And I got in touch with the channeler, Eden, who's now a good friend. And she was like, he told you that it was going to show up. It was just in his timing to make you believe. So I suppose that was the start of my journey. And then
how did you process that? Tell me, because it's like, because you haven't before then, you haven't heard, I'm guessing, from what I understand, about channeling or mediums or anything.
I'd heard of psychics before in the past,
right.
But it wasn't something that I was like around or anything. So the ability then to learn to understand that there's more going on here than meets the eye, like, and looking back over my journey going, hang on a minute, there's this guy who knows nobody, has no resources, no network, leading from the heart, just has passion, and yet he's got some of the world's biggest names who have just said yes to him, shared their vulnerability with him, a total stranger, on camera. All these publications from like GQ, People Magazine, Australia, the top mainstream media, getting behind me in a year. I'm like, this is crazy. But at the time, I didn't think about it. I was just like, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. And then the biggest thing that happened next was this world-leading shaman called Shaman Durek, who's like Gwyneth Paltrow's shaman. Like, we connected. And I was like, okay, what's this about shamanism? And he says, right, Glenn, first of all, you need to breathe. He said, you're in your head. And this is the thing a lot about people in spirituality are on this journey. And a lot of my friends of faith and everyone goes, oh, you know, Glenn, he's expecting like his guides and God to roll out the red carpet and talk to him audibly. And I'm like, why wouldn't I? Because so many people on social media make it out to be this huge shebang. And I'm like, it's not. We need to normalize. It's different for everybody. And anyway, I was sat with a shaman and he said, right, can I tap into you? Can I tap into your energy? And I'm like, do what the bloody hell you want. Go on. And I'm sat there with my legs crossed and I've got my arms like this, if you can see. And the next minute, like, this was over the phone. And it was like, I'm going to place something, a burning sensation in your body, and you've got to tell me where it is. So I'm like, okay, it's not like this. And then I'm getting in my head thinking, I don't want to offend him. Shall I make it up? Right. And then it kept going. And I was like, my right shoulder is burning. He said, right, I'm going to turn it up. So he started turning it up and my arms started going like this and shaking like this uncontrollably. Yeah. And I'm like, he says, right, I'm going to call in my ancestors here. And he started doing all this thing. The next minute, my fingers are going like this, almost typing. And he says, right, I know what's going on here. Start pouring into me. He says, right, you have the ability. You are a celestial code writer. And I'm going, what the bloody hell is that? And he's like, you've literally got the ability to change the matrix with what you're doing. And at the time I'm going, what the bloody hell's the matrix?
You mean the movie?
I'm the more unprepared, unqualified person when it comes to this walk of spirituality, faith, however people see it. And then I started working with them a little bit. And again, the channelers, and they just gave me this ability to like tap out of the noise and start listening between the lines. And how I started doing it was a lot of frequency music. And I'd tap out of everyday music, listening to it. And then all of a sudden, every time, like for you, for instance, for the past half an hour, I think I mentioned it before the call the other day, you've got this green aura around you. I just see colors around people. So it blurs their face. So afterwards, Google it, because I don't know everything in terms of what they mean. But you keep having this green every time you're moving. That's what I'd see. I'd see it on people everywhere. And I was like, I can just see colors. And people are going, you've got the ability to see colors. And then the next moment, it would be, I'd get ringing in my right ear. And I was like, why do I keep getting run? Have I got tinnitus? Like, have I got this? And then it was like, no, that's your guide. You're evolving and you're moving. And then I was reading like the stages of spiritual awakening. And I'm going, tick, done that. Yep, that's happened, that's happened, that's happened, that's happened. Tick, tick. Oh, I must have gone through a spiritual awakening. And but this is the thing. I think social media, if you're looking for something, you're going to find everything. And there are people on there, sadly, that are going, and this whole crazy shebang happened, and this, and then I spoke in tongues, and this. And it makes us question ourselves because we don't have those experiences at times. And we're like, is it not working for us then? But it just works uniquely on our different path. And then when I started doing a couple of podcasts, I'd get random downloads. I'd get messages for people. But again, when it first happens, you question yourself. Oh, I can't say that. What if it's not correct? And they just think I'm coming out with a load of crap. And then you just get more confidence. And then I started saying it to people, saying, hey, can I just bring this up to you? And the first time it happened, I was on with this celebrity. And I said it kind of towards the end of the episode. And I said, do you mind me just saying something to you? And she was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, there's a baby boy around you. Why is there a baby boy around you? And she started crying. And I was like, have I offended you? She was like, oh, I lost a baby boy a month ago. And I'm like, and I couldn't see anything. It was just the energy. And I just knew there was a baby boy. And then I said, but there's an old lady with that baby. Like, but she's got a really prominent nose. Like, I could just see this prominent nose and then this flowery dress. But not any day flowery. It was like back in the days, like an old school grandma or something. And she checked with a partner and it was his grandma, like who used to wear these flowery dress. And I'm like, holy shit, this is incredible. So when it happens, it happens. But for me, I have to learn to disconnect because half the time, like I'll be on this podcast and I'm going to speak the truth from my heart. It isn't there all the time. It comes and it goes. And I think you have to fine tune it because sometimes it's like, I heard a question, are you ready yet? Are you ready for them to connect with you fully and embrace it? And half the time I'm going, yeah, I am. I bloody am. And then, so you've really just got to enjoy the process, I've found.
Yes. So you basically, when you saw the shaman, right? And after that, your, let's call it abilities, or you were tuned in more in a sense, right? Tuned in. From what I understand, you were tuned in to the spirit world, basically, so that you could receive them better, whether it's hearing, feeling, knowing, any of the senses. And then when you were still doing your work, so still interviewing people for the Imperfectly Perfect campaign, you started feeling and seeing and knowing that there are other people around that maybe are not here in the physical form. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah. So when it means tapping into that, I just say tapping into the divine, getting guidance,
Yes.
and how it looks so different for everyone. So not only that, I get the sporadic messages now and again, like by words and random visuals and the auras. But there was a time when it comes to like all this ringing in the ear, everything's at a different level and everything's happening all the time that I wouldn't even know about. And that's where I suppose I had to keep going back to my friends who just happened to be trans channelers and happened to be in this area. So it was a case of, can you guide me in this? Because I do want to tap in more to it, but I don't know what's happening with it. But how I did it for the campaign and utilized it, and I still do for the campaign, is I ask for signs, I ask for synchronicities and them to line things up. If I'm trying to connect with somebody, I'll ask if this is the right person to connect with and ask for a sign. And normally I get that guidance. So I just want people to realize that if they want something so bad and they go for it and it doesn't happen, well, try and change that narrative and go, maybe it wasn't meant to happen, that something better's there for you, or they're protecting you from something.
Exactly. It's just...
Yeah, go on, sorry. Well,
I was just going to say, like when we talked about that, not having expectation, right? It does, because if you don't have expectation and you follow your passion, it doesn't mean that everything will happen just as you think it will. Just because you contact someone or you do something doesn't mean they will come back. But it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong, or it just means that, just like you say, maybe they're not the right person, maybe it's not the right time, maybe, just look somewhere else. It's not a failure. It doesn't mean you should drop everything and, forget about it all. It's just leave it, just fine. I wanted to put in here, also what I found really fun and interesting is when I messaged you and it was 333 when I was telling you what
Yeah.
time it was on my side, because I personally experience a lot of signs with numbers. That's my thing. And recently, since around December and beginning of this year, I've been seeing a lot of repeat numbers, and I don't necessarily look them up all the time. What does this mean? What does this mean? I just know that I'm on the right path and it's just aligned. And so when I was trying to figure out what time it is where you are in Australia, and I was telling you what is it now, it was actually 3:33 in the afternoon, and I just thought, oh, well, isn't that interesting? So yeah, little things like that, and you know, and we did end up having an interview, so I think it was, you know, meant to be in a sense. And but if it didn't happen, it wouldn't have happened, and it's fine. It's yeah, you might get redirected to different places, different people, different situations, but it's it's all good fun, I guess. Don't take yourself too seriously, right? As well.
I think it's all planned out.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I had a dream one night. I asked for a dream, and I said, if I'm going to do this, you're going to have to show me something that makes sense to me. And I always ask. So this is one thing I'll always say to you, and I learned it from a good friend. If you're asking for a dream for them to come through in your dream, ask to remember it as well, because normally we don't remember dreams. So if you're not going to ask, well, there you go. You're not asking to remember. And I had this dream one night, and it was so vivid, and it was a sense of, it showed me my journey. And it was weird because I told my wife in the morning, it was a sense of, I started in fitness in the UK, and I used to stick up for people, as in, like, if the managers were like belittling people or if anything, I'd be the person that stuck up and stood up, which was often to my detriment. Like, I'd get let go or anything like that. But yet I looked at how that's attributed to me now, making a difference on an international scale, sticking up for the people, speaking out. The next minute, my parents had split up, but my mum then years later got with a guy from New Zealand, which then made me move to New Zealand. I was in fitness, and some of the people that are on my campaign who have helped me take it to the world are now my best mates. And it consecuted to that. And the next minute, I moved into the speaking realm. So all that from fitness, teaching group fitness, evolved me into speaking on international stages without being scared or without being like, oh, I can't do this. So everything was just shown to me. And I was like, holy shit, it's mapped out. And I wouldn't have ever known by picking up a camera and taking pictures of people where I'd be 7 years later speaking on international stages with a book series, helping other people, doing this, doing that. Like, and that's the thing you're saying, have fun with it. Don't have expectations, because where I thought it'd go, which was just a sense of, hey, awareness, has now built me into a businessman that is out there making money to pour into this without depending on donations or grants or funding. I never saw that in a million years. So have fun, like Bashar says, do those creative things that pop in your head. They're there for a reason. Just do it, follow it.
Yeah, it's a big message. It's hopefully people are moving towards that direction, because I think there's also a lot of us who are just fed up with how things are, and you know, all of the systems are crumbling, and you know, we have to sort of let go of the control of how we want to control, or how we think we should be controlling our life. And then yeah, it's a totally different lifestyle, I guess, and but it's needed. It's a needed shift that we're all going through. So when you say, you know, you started to follow the guidance, right, that you receive, how do you usually experience that? Because you mentioned the dreams that you might have, and like you say, ask whatever you need to ask, and then when you receive the answer, trust it. That's one thing as well.
Yeah.
However it comes through to you. Did you struggle with that at first, or were you just, because you saw the shaman and he did whatever he did, and then you just, oh, and now I just see things, now I just hear things? Is that what it was?
No, and I think this is what needs to be normalized through these conversations, because it confuses people so much. I mean, I even get confused these days. Like, oh, was that real? And then I always laugh and think my guides will be like, bloody hell, Glenn, how many signs do you need? Like, because sometimes I'll be like, oh, just show me that again. Am I just seeing that because I wanted to? Because at times where the way our mind works, if we want a Porsche, we start seeing the Porsches go everywhere by, right? So then it's like, oh, am I doing this? So I started asking very specific questions. And with me, it first started by a single white feather. So one of my good friends who came on the campaign, he passed away, right? And he had cancer. And anyway, the morning that I found out he passed, I was at the gym and a friend texted me and was like, oh, we've lost Michael. So I was walking home, I left the gym and I was like in tears, and there was no wind, there was no nothing. And just out of the blue, this single white feather just floated in front of me. So like a couple of weeks later, I spoke to my friend who was a channeler and I said, can we do a session? And we did. And Michael came through. And he also said that he'd put that feather in front of me. Right. Yeah. So I use that as a sign of when I ask for guidance, I want this single white feather. So every single thing that I do, every step that I do. And the biggest one was I wanted to go that one step further. And I was like, you know what? We might see feathers everywhere, right? They could come from everywhere. So I want you to send me the biggest bloody white feather that I've seen. Like, it has to be big to make this known that it's you, that I'm being guided, right? So anyway, we went into the city one day. It was the same day. We went into the city and we drove around in a circle, and there was one parking spot beside of this road. We'd circled it 3 times, one. And we got there, parked, got out the car, went round the other side to pick up my baby girl at the time. Outside her door, the biggest white feather. Okay. It just no undisputed. And I was like, holy shit. But when you say, was it easy? Still afterwards, give me an hour later, I'm like, just confirm that I saw that big white feather.
Can I please now have a look at it? No, I'm kidding. It's just
like when we listen to Bashar, when we listen to all these people and they say, look, we've just forgotten who we are. Like, we've come to experience this thing, this human experience, but we've forgotten who we were at the first. So, of course, we're going to judge it. We're going to question it. All these abilities, everything's happening. I mean, there was one point, and this is the most profound one for me. I was speaking to my friend, trans channeler Eden, and we were doing voice notes. And I sent her this voice note, and then the next minute, she sent one back. But I couldn't hear her. I could hear a faint voice, and I could hear 2 women speaking. And I heard the word like mental health. So I'm like, oh, turn the bloody TV down. So I sent another one and I'm like, Eden, I can't hear you. Can you turn that bloody TV down? Like, it's so loud. It just sounds like so static. And she sent one back and it was clear as anything. She was like, Glenn, I'm in a room without a TV. I wouldn't have the TV on if I'm speaking to you. And I was like, no, bullshit. I was like, no, I just heard 2 women speaking and I heard the word mental health, but I wasn't listening to them because I was trying to listen to you. Anyway, went back to that voice note that she'd sent previous. It was just her voice, clear as day. And I told her, and I was like, no, this is, and she was like, welcome. She was like, that's how I hear. See, she hears audibly, and it's never happened again. Never happened again. And I'm like, I want that to happen. But all the other ways that it's happened to me is spectacular. And I think every step of the way I ask for that guidance, and those feathers show up. And if they don't, I'll take that as, okay, well, that's not meant to be. So you've got to find your way. And the dreams I always ask for, because it's when we're not in the present, we're not overthinking, we're sleeping, and if you can go that deep, but your gifts will be completely different to mine will be different to the next person's. And I think everyone just needs to tap out of Tom, Dick and Harry on social media. Like, people can listen to this episode and go, oh yeah, I like what he said there and that, but I'd be like, don't give your power to me. Like, you want to learn to tune in yourself. And I think that's where we've gone wrong in this day and age. Everyone's got a program. Everyone's got this, and I can show you how to manifest, and I can do this, and I can do this. And I'm like, hold on a minute. I think the ultimate way of manifesting, because we're doing it all the time, whether good or bad, is to really look internal and be okay with who you are, your imperfections and all. And that's when you start radiating this passion, this glow, knowing that you're enough, and you naturally attract it. It comes to you regardless of whatever you were wanting. But when people are trying to make this spirituality to be it's always attaining to abundance, and abundance is always monetary values. And I'm like, run the other way, because the spiritual journey is not nearly about money, and especially not about not a program.
Yeah, exactly. It's what I found, and what I started communicating a little bit more is the trust. So when you get into the, let's call it a spiritual journey, like once you know that it's spiritual, although I think our whole life is spiritual, it's a spiritual journey, whether we mentally think about it this way or not. But when you're aware, let's say, that you're going through it, and you're starting to ask for signs, or ask for guidance, the biggest thing is trust in yourself. And that's, I think, what requires the most work, and that's where the rewards are the biggest, because, as you say, it's whenever we receive guidance, whichever form it comes through, it's never loud, it never is loud, it's never a big bang, like like some people might think it is. It's not like the lady that sent you a voice note. She hears audibly, but that's a very, very low percentage of people, of channelers, of psychics and mediums that do receive messages this way. A lot of times the audible, let's say, messages are audible as in your mind through your own voice, but the message is just slightly different than what you would have thought. And it's also definitely loving. I think that's how you can kind of notice the difference, because your guides, your angels, whoever's looking after you, they will not be putting you down, they will not be talking badly to you. That's us, those are our thoughts and our ego. But when we do ask for any sort of signs and guidance, a lot of times it comes through, like I say, either in our mind through our own voice, or we just feel it, or we just have the knowing, or it's kind of, we're kind of drawn a little bit more to that than the other thing. And it's just a matter of us really trusting that that's what it is. And I would imagine you had your times of doubt, apart from the times when you were asking for all the feathers and the bigger feathers than the previous one. But there have you experienced any major doubts during your journey at all, whilst you were building what you're building now?
Yeah. And look, I'll always be very transparent and honest, and it comes back to that listening to Tom, Dick and Harry. I think the more and more we learn to tap out listening to everybody else on our spiritual journey, the better it is for us, and we're going to evolve a lot quicker. You see, through mine, although I was building something called Imperfectly Perfect, there was a time when I was questioning everything, because I was like, oh, the business is not, like, how do I, or what do I, and I was getting in my head, and I'm going, oh, maybe it's because I'm not perfect enough. Because by that time, I started listening to people of faith. And I'll always say, God found me. But then when you move towards that realm and you have the religious side, you've got people who are so indoctrinated who basically, that's wrong, that's a sin, that's a sin, that's a sin, that's a sin, that's a sin. And it starts getting in your head. It really does. And I had a dream one night, again, another dream, and the word baptism came up in my head, right? The next morning I woke up, and like I say, I remembered the word, told my wife. The next morning I turned social media on. The first post was from a friend of mine, and he said, does anyone want to come to church with me? And I'm like, I didn't even know he went to bloody church. I was like, I hope it's not stoic like the UK, like there's a vicar and there's hymns. And so I reached out to him. I said, what's this about? And he said, oh, look, these young guys, there's all these families singing. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go. And it was like, at first I thought it was like a cult, everyone's singing and arms up. And I'm like, this ain't me. But at the end of it, what I did like is that people got on stage talking and shared their imperfect self. Like there was ex-addicts, there was these, and I was like, that's beautiful. That they're welcoming everyone and how they've turned their life around. I just think that's amazing. And then the end of it, the guy said, remember everybody that we're doing baptisms next week. And I turned around to my friend and I was like, oh, come on, they must do baptisms all the time. He said, no, every 6 months. And I was like, what? So I took that again as guidance to go and get baptized. So I did. And because I was listening to a lot of people of faith at the time as well, so I didn't close myself off to spirituality, because I wasn't listening that much going, No, you don't tell me what to believe. I'm going to see what I believe. So anyway, day of the baptism came up, and I was listening to, again, Tom, Dick and Harry on social media, and everyone's like, you get filled with the Holy Spirit and you speak in tongues and all this. And I'm like, okay, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Like, this is a miracle. Like, what's going to happen? Anyway, I went in and I got baptized and I came up. The only thing that I felt was there was a man and a woman. There were a couple, and this immense amount of love. Like, he gave me the biggest hug and she gave me the hug. And as you get older, you know, when you're a parent, you don't see your friends as much. And as a guy, other than your partner, you don't get a hug by anyone. So for another male to like embrace you, and a woman, just that. And I was like, wow, that feels like they've seen me, they've heard me. But other than that, I was waiting days, weeks after, and I'm going,
For the voices and the
yeah, I still don't like. And I do like a drink with my friends. Like, I don't drink much, but I'll have a lager, and I do swear a little bit. And I'm listening to all these people. That's wrong. This is wrong. Da, 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 da. And anyway, I believe when I spoke to a friend who is a prophet of God, saying you are put in these positions to show and reveal certain aspects and what resonates with you. So I started delving down and looking into the church and religion, and actually realizing that a lot of it is conformed by power and greed. Obviously, we know that religion's conformed, and unfortunately, a lot of people are so indoctrinated. And if anyone's religious on here, like, it's not a judgment piece from me. Like, you believe in what you believe, and I do believe in God and I have my personal relationship, but it's almost like, don't question anything. And I was like, the day I pass, and if I meet God, and he said, Glenn, what did you learn? If I followed that rule and went, oh, nothing, because I was told not to question. Whereas now I'd be like, oh, well, I learned this and I learned this, and that's amazing. And I learned to channel and I learned to this. I'd be like, that's evolving, that's growing, that's life. But I was questioning everything. And I was stalling in what I was doing with the Imperfectly Perfect campaign, because I thought I wasn't perfect enough. So that, when you said, have you ever questioned yourself? Have you ever that? And there was a guy that came on my campaign, he came on my podcast, and albeit it was a different experience, he was a big All Black rugby player. And he said he went through the same thing. He was brought up around religion. Now, his story was a little bit different in that he opened up about sexuality. He was gay in a All Black male rugby team. And he was like, when he didn't get anywhere or he didn't get picked, he thought it was because he wasn't perfect enough. And it was like God, my guides, was speaking through him to me. And I'll always say, people always come in the form, again, signs, synchronicities, to give you that wisdom. And as he said it, something just hit me, and I was like, oh my God, I'm trying to be perfect and I'm not perfect. And this mission that was placed on my heart is because I've been leading the imperfect people to share the stories, to say that we are enough. As soon as I let that go, boom, took off again. So I do believe we have to question things. We're just going to go, oh, what he says is gospel, what she says is gospel. I'd hate for someone to listen to this and go, I believe every word he said. Go and research, go and listen to yourself. Like, we don't know everything. And I know that you said you do cards at times. When I was going through faith, I told my wife to get rid of all cards, everything, because apparently that's not of God, and that's this. And she put them in the cupboard, and she was like, no. She was like, I'm going to keep them. I was like, no, you can't have that in the house. You can't have this. So, but I believe I had to go through that to experience it, that how indoctrinated people can get by certain religions. And it was a manic time.
Yeah, amazing. Yes, it's indoctrination, whether religious or otherwise, I guess, is a big thing. And as you say, it's good to listen and research and watch and hear other people speak, but then you have to learn how to discern what resonates with you, what doesn't, and what is your truth. In a sense, I know I say your truth as if everyone has their own truth. In a sense, they do, but then there is also a collective truth that I feel we all then kind of move towards. But yeah, it's a big job, but it's an important one, because this is the time when we are learning that we need to listen to ourselves more than the others. The times of listening to the others are gone. They're like really going away, and the power we find out now is within us, right? Because the power means something different to what we, again, been taught all this time. It's not external, it's not in the money, although money, again, is also totally fine. Money is neutral. It's what people do with it, what energy, let's say, we place on money, because otherwise it's just it's just like anything else. We add value to everything. So, and the other thing is that it has its own, spiritual energy, just like anything does. So whatever relationship you have with money, abundance, because whenever we say, like you mentioned before, when people say abundance, everyone keeps thinking about monetary and financial abundance, and that's a part of it, but that's not the whole story. So anyway, I just thought I'll kind of like put it out there, because it's still a big topic.
It's a huge one with the abundance thing. I think, like you say, it's the entirety of everything collectively together. Whereas, unfortunately, you've still got people this day and age who see it as a quick way to earn money themselves. So they'll spin it. And I'm saying, if anyone has to come across with that energy that's almost like emotional manipulation, saying, you've got money blocks, you've got this block, and the only way that you can get it fixed is by me. That I'm like, run the other way. You are not blocked.
Yeah.
Like, stop listening to it, because abundance, like in its entirety, is everything encapsulated. It's not just money. Like, stop believing this stuff. But that shows us how indoctrinated we've been, and we're so conditioned. But people are just very good at playing into the psychology of it and selling programs on it. And that's where I think it's wrong. I don't think it's wrong to earn money and a living from what you do spiritual at all. I think if you're offering a gift to the world, that's been placed on your heart and you're helping people. But there's a fine line between when people are out there telling people you're blocked, they can fix you. And it's like, stop doing that. You don't need to do that, people.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I personally have I've had a big, let's say, journey on understanding, money and self-worth, right? It's always tied to self-worth. If you don't have enough money, then you don't feel like you're, valuable or something. And I went through phases. There was a time when I was chasing money for sure, but it was I never had really like it's not like I always thought, oh, I want to be rich, or it was more fear. It was, a lot of people are driven through fear, because, if this is the only currency that we see is giving us the opportunity to be somewhat, safe and comfortable and joyful, because, if you want to, I don't know, go and get an ice cream, whatever, because it makes you happy, then you kind of need the money to exchange. Well, kind of, right? Well, you don't know, it might come to you in a different way, but that's what I kind of mean. But it's such a strong, such a deep built-in program that we all have, that it takes a long time to see it differently. But I am definitely a good example of how you don't need money, because I've been broke most of my life since I moved out of the family home. I had money to, pay rent and whatever, but I never really had, let's say, enough, in air quotes, to, I don't know, I want to just, let's say, to do what I felt I want to do, or I felt I need. But what I'm getting at is that over time, when my spiritual journey started, when it opened up more to my awareness, rather, I just started coming across people who would just help me. A lot of times it was healing. So I had a lot of healing to do, and I believe, I was it was my time. It was just, the thing is that it was my time to start healing. I went through all the, let's call it, life experience and the karma and all that stuff, and then the time came when I needed to start to heal. But again, it's not like I would hear about this kind of healing, that kind of healing, this and the other, and obviously people need to sell it. It's what they do, and I didn't really have the money. But it still happened. I still had people who would come to me and offer free sessions, or I made friends who were studying a certain healing modality, and we would exchange, and I would exchange what I do, and she would exchange what she did. Most recently, I've been thinking about. I don't know if I wanted or if I needed, but it's kind of like on my mind doing maybe some life coaching because it's been around in my awareness for a bit, and I thought, oh, it actually would be nice to talk about this and this with someone, and then this lady was offering because she was studying or being taking some extra qualifications to her healing practice of life coaching, and she needs people to for her case studies. And I honestly, that was actually very interesting because I honestly thought I don't really know, but I just feel like I'll just post, I'll just comment, okay, maybe something will come out of it. I was thinking because I have a small baby still, he's just a year and a half. I thought I have no idea how I would plan anything because I couldn't plan anything, at certain times because who knows? Maybe he'll have a nap, maybe he won't have a nap, maybe he will be in the mood that day, or like I don't even know how I could commit to anything. But I left a comment, and I honestly was thinking, or my mind, my human mind was thinking that she'll probably, I'm sure there's more people, and she won't message me, so it's fine. I don't even know why I did that. But no, she always told me since we started. She said no, she always were my first choice. So when I saw your message, I was like, yep, that one. And then she did help me a lot, through that stage of my life. And I just thought, and it was just happening all the time for me throughout this whole journey. Whoever I needed at the time, if I didn't have the money, for instance, then somehow it just came to me in a different way. And so but it's a process, and and all the things that you say, when people advertise about, oh, changing the money blocks and changing your, it has its place. I think there's just a very thin kind of like line between when people say, "Oh, I can help you with that," and because my way is the best, and just saying, this is a thing. You might have a problem with that, but it doesn't mean you have to now work with me. Maybe there's going to be someone else. Maybe you just reading that headline is enough for you to just even think about it, and then you can go in internally and ask questions and ask guidance. But then there's the thing of trusting it when you do receive the guidance, right? Because it might come to you through through a message from your, I don't know, mother-in-law, who maybe you don't like the best, for example, and she says something that kind of triggers you, and you think, oh, I don't like what she said, but she's kind of right,
Yeah.
things like that.
I think when it comes to that word block,
Yeah.
if someone was to say to you, you've got money blocks, right? Cat, you're blocked. The first thing we do in that human mind is we go, oh shit, what do I do? And whatever we do, we conjured, we've put that we've ingrained it, and we're blocked. I can't get that now, we're blocked, right? That is the word that's a marketing trending word. Everything's blocked. And if you look at YouTube, if you look at everything, right, it's clickbait titles. It drives attention. Manifestation, how to get your abundant life. You are blocked. This is what you need to do, right? So in that entirety, it's not wrong to say that you have got trauma around money, like you said, but to use those kind of words, which is so final, and which we already know when it comes to mental health or well-being, if you're telling somebody they're blocked and they have the type of personality to just go on a spiral downward control and beat themselves up because they're like, what can I do now? I haven't got the money to pay that person. Where do I go? What do I do? Oh, I'm not enough. Oh, da, 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 da. It's I think personally, and nobody can take away how I feel, I think it's a little irresponsible. Especially when you work around mental health and you see people struggling, and then all of a sudden they're looking for answers and somebody's saying you're blocked, and then they don't know where to turn because these people aren't going to help them or redirect them somewhere free because they're trying to build a business, or they're entirely about themselves. They're still in that ego, which again, I'd never make judgment because everyone's evolving at their own pace. But I just think you've got to be a lot more responsible, I think, especially on your spiritual journey, the real one, if we are wanting to move and evolve as species collectively, we have to think we can do it the right way. We don't have to look over, look through, look around people. Like you even said there, you didn't have the money, but look what happened. Things came. I've built an international campaign and I had no money to start with. But yet you've got some of the biggest organizations who rely on funding, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to keep on going. And they're chasing the tail to keep on going. A lot of non-profits close down because they can't keep the funding going. Well, I've done it minimal. I'm still creating awareness and I've taken it to each country and I've got some of the world's biggest names behind it. And they know I've done it because they contact me and want to collaborate, which I don't, because I'm like, you're getting all this money. I'd rather keep this pure and keep it grassroots and keep it growing and me pour money into it by being paid what I do for my business. But I just think it's about responsibility. If we are collectively wanting to lead from the heart, just be careful what you say to people because it can put people into bad places in there if they already struggle.
Oh, that's something that we could talk for another however many hours. That topic about being responsible and knowing that what you say and how you say it will affect people in a bad way, so-called air quotes again, no good or bad in the world, but because of where people are, because there are a lot of people that are in a very vulnerable state. And they are seeking answers, and they will put their power in someone else's hands, to fix them. You fix me, because I can't, I'm so broken, I can't fix myself or my life or whatever. And so these kind of messages can be very damaging. And what was the other? Yes, the one example I wanted also to share with everyone is when it was I think 2 years in since I've been doing work in the, let's say, spiritual realm, and I was listening to my guides and all of that stuff, and I was trusting myself. I was working on trusting myself, and I was in this group, Facebook group, which was about spirituality, just very generally, and someone messaged me saying, oh, as if they're friendly, right? Like, oh, hi, so we are in the same group, and I thought, maybe did you want to talk about thinking this and this, and I thought, this is not feeling very good. I mean, this person is saying nice words, but I'm not kind of feeling it, but I'll entertain it for a little bit. And then so we chatted a little bit about me, what I do, and it sounded like we're becoming friends or whatever. But and then the lady says, oh, and have you heard of this and this? I can't remember the name. He helps us, manifest, whatever we want in life. And I was like, oh, there we go, and I thought, oh, I think she asked me actually, oh, do you know, are you into manifesting or something like that? And I just thought, oh, here it comes. And then I answered whatever I said. And they said, oh, well, have you heard of this and this person? He is, when we use his formula or whatever, then it's such a different level. And I'm thinking, oh, I said something along the lines, I can't remember, oh, thank you, but I think I know what I'm doing, kind of thing in my life, and I don't feel like I need it. But I said, but the thing that she said, right, that can really play on people's mind is like, well, it might be that it's a synchronicity or something around those words that we are now talking to each other. Maybe it was meant to be, because otherwise it wouldn't come to you. And I was like, oh my God, that is so deceiving. Yeah. But the interesting thing, because I'm so internally focused now, and I really listen to how my body responds and how my mind is responding and everything, and I, for a split second, I really was in a mental conflict. I was like, oh my god, but it's maybe difficult to explain, but I think if once you find that peace and that sort of like connection with your soul, you can observe yourself a little bit better. You observe your feelings and you observe how your mind works without attaching your whole being to it and just becoming reactive or something. I at that point I was able to observe it, but I could observe how my body almost impulsively was reacting as it used to in the past, very like, oh yeah, oh my gosh, maybe she's right. Maybe, if it was, I don't know, however many years before, I probably would have really considered it, because I thought, oh, maybe she's right, maybe. But by that point, I was, I knew what's going on. So I just thought, oh, that is so sly that you said it, because someone who's not,
Congratulations to that.
yeah. And it took so much work, like I said, it took so much work for me up until then to be able to notice what's happening. And I know, because I was in a situation years before then where I was very much, I would say, manipulated very easily. And I'm not saying that people, I think some people do really have good intentions, but they're using the wrong tools, and yeah, it's just not good.
I think they're just seeing it. They're reflecting what they're seeing other people do.
Yeah.
And they're also in the scarcity mindset. So they're thinking, oh, I'll do that and that'll work, and I'll do that. And they're trying everything. So again, if you can detach your emotions to them, or what I like to say is, you will often notice those good people who start out as life coaches, and they've normally got a specific mission placed on the heart. I want to help women do this, or I want to help men do this. The next minute, they're coaches who coach coaches to become coaches, and then another coach. It's because they don't really have that mindset or that business acumen to build that business. So they're thinking, oh, now I'll go to somebody who coaches coach. But ironically, if you're really tapped in, you'd be like, hold on a minute. If they're teaching me how to coach coaches, and we're all charging $10,000, aren't we just making more competition for each other? Then who's going to get the clients? So there's that aspect. And I think what you said there with manifestation, what I always often say to people is, right, look at this. You've got TikTok or any social media. You've got every Tom, Dick and Harry, is my favorite word, giving you what worked for them. What that should be telling you is that that person's is different to theirs. That person's is different to theirs. Yeah. But yet the common theme they're all saying is that their specific program will work for you. No, they're all different to each other. So clap if it has worked for them. But do you really think that they're specific? And that's why people go from program to program to program. And I had one lady that did it to me. And I think if you've ever heard the term sheep in wolf's clothing, it's detach your emotions from the people again. But I had a woman come to me, and it came about serendipitously, all of this. And she said, Glenn, the problem with you is you don't allow yourself to receive. You're giving too much to everybody, and you need to learn to receive, right? So I listened to her. And then she said, you should try my manifestation course. You do 5 days for free. And then obviously, if you want to go ahead. So I was like, you know what? I'll give this a crack. I've never really heard about it before. Got to like the third day where like the pitching started with everybody. And then the fourth day, and then the fifth day, it was kind of like, oh, we're going to get on call with people to tell them about what the program is, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, I just had this inkling, because she got a business partner, that she wouldn't be on my call, right? After what she'd said to me. So anyway, she wasn't. It was a business partner. And she was like, oh, I've heard everything about you, Glenn. And this woman says you're amazing. I'll not mention name. And I was like, oh, thank you. And she was like, so are you interested in joining us? Like it's $10,000. And in my head, I'm going, $10,000 to learn to manifest. I'm like, okay. But then I turned around and I was like, oh, because I'm quite angst. I dare say things. That's confidence. That's discernment that's come back in me. And I was like, oh, that's kind of funny, because she told me that I needed to learn to start receiving. So it's funny that you on the call. I was like, so this is not me receiving. This would be me giving again. So what, I'm supposed to learn to receive off everybody else, just not her? Like, I was like, I'll leave. So I've seen it all. I've seen men and women who say they're of God and prophets, and they're telling people they've got them a blessing and they can prophesy over them, but yet they're going, oh, wait a minute, God's telling me 44, 77, or everybody in this room needs to pour $77 into me, and then you'll get your blessing.
Really?
And I'm like, oh my God, people are so emotionally seeking and searching and damaged that they're doing it, they're paying it. And this is what I find is irresponsible. It's not mandated. A lot of the life coaching stuff is not mandated. These manifestation coaches is not mandated or governed. There's no governing bodies. But we have to also then look at ourselves. Yeah. And we have to go, Does this not sound too good
Let's
to be
not
true?
just blame the others, right? That's the other thing. It's like, oh, maybe they're just your teacher here to show you something.
Sometimes it's
right?
that lesson that we needed. We need to look at ourselves, because my book it's called One Man's Mission to Redefine Imperfection. You'd read it and you go, oh my God, Glenn never learned. There's like 6 chapters where I went through the same lesson 5 times.
Yeah.
And then it was only the last time I was going, I think I'm being told to stop this. And I did. And then it never came back. Well, it did, to test me, to see if I'd really learned the lesson.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd never want to come on a show or when I'm on TV or anything and preach as if I've got the answers, because if people come codependent on you, it's just, they're not going on their own journey. They're really not.
Yeah. Wise words. Okay, well, it was a very fascinating conversation, Glenn. Like I said, I could talk about it for hours, because I have quite a good extensive story of my own in this subject, but yeah, another time. And yeah, please let us know where people can find you and how they can find out more about your work. And obviously, I will put some links in the notes as well. But yeah, if you can just mention anything else that you wish to say to people as a
No, I'll just say thank you for having me on the show and the work that you do. I mean, I think it's always important for people getting their stories out and letting people know, and especially these conversations, the real ones, not the shiny ones, not the highlights of, oh, this has happened, because I think people connect to real. People aren't looking for perfect. They're craving authenticity and real authenticity. So thank you. They can go to imperfectlyperfectcampaign.org, or they can go to glennmarsden.com across all socials, and you can find out all about it.
Okay, great. So yeah, like I said, I will leave the link in the notes. And again, thank you very much for coming. And yeah, wish you all the best. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much.